Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm DJ Sixsmith. Welcome to Sit Down. Chanel West Coast here with us. You know her from Ridiculousness. She's got her new album out. Chanel, nice to meet you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I love the festive holiday spirit you got going on. It's been a rough year, so I feel like we just have to lean into Christmas and all the holiday celebrations this year.
I know. I feel like it's been such a rough year. So I feel like Christmas started earlier this year than any year. We were just all so excited to have some sort of joy, you know?
I hear you. So a good thing for you this year is that you dropped a new album, America's Sweetheart,
Yes.
and you've been doing the
Yes.
music thing for a minute, but what was it like putting out this album this year?
Well, I felt like obviously this year's been rough for everybody, and I had a lot of bigger plans for my album. Originally, I wanted to do like a video, like Beyonce style, for every single song, and then this year happened, and it was like, okay, well, I had like one video, for example, we wanted to film on an island, and a lot of the locations that I had in mind were not as accessible anymore and easy to travel to because of all the restrictions. So we were like, let's just put out the album without all the visuals because that's not happening this year. And yeah, it's been a long time in the works. I've been working on all of these songs for not all of them, but I've been working on this body of work for a really long time. And like half the album actually ended up being all songs I recorded in my house this year.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it was great to have the extra time to really like focus in on the music. I didn't have Ridiculousness filming for a few months, so I was able to really finally just 100% put everything aside, and I feel like I finally was able to put together the piece of work that I wanted to put together.
That's really awesome. Had you recorded music in your house before, or was it the first time doing this because of everything that happened this year?
Yeah, so I've been recording music since I was 15, way before I was on TV. Like that's what I've always done. And I grew up in LA, so growing up here in LA, there was access to studios and stuff. I've never had to start my own home setup. I've been really blessed to like make some cool connections since I was young and work in some bigger studios. So it's funny because I actually took kind of a step back this year, and like I completely just was working in a small, tiny room of my house that's borderline a closet size. And so it kind of reminded me of like when I really first started, the couple little house studios I went to, and I progressed and worked at all the big studios like Record Plant and Paramount and all those places. And that's amazing and so fun to work there and be in that environment. But there's something about being in the comfort of your own home, in your own little space. And I feel like creatively, sometimes I think more comes out when you're in your own like little safe space like that.
Yeah, it kind of brings you back to the roots. And you mentioned when you're 15 and you're starting this whole thing up. What did that look like? What kind of music were you into at that point, and what were you hoping to do musically at that point?
It's funny. I was into like hard hip hop at that point. Like I was rapping like so gangster. You would have been like, who is this person? But I was a little crazy as a teenager. Let's put it that way. I've definitely matured, got a lot classier, learned how to keep a balance. But whenever I started rapping, it was straight up rap. I wasn't doing any pop, any singing, and I really just wanted to be like a straight up rapper. I was like at the time like listening to 50 Cent, G Unit, Mob Deep, Dipset, like a lot of gangster rappers, and so that was like a big influence of mine at the time. But obviously over time I've grown a lot as an artist, and now I'm doing more pop and singing, and yeah, it's definitely progressed from that starting point.
It's a journey, it's a process, and it
Yeah.
takes time to find your own sound. So when do you feel like you really embrace your identity of this is who I'm going to be as a musician?
Yeah.
I've listened to some other people, and this is what I'm going to be.
Yep.
When do you think that really happened for you? When do you feel like you found
Oh,
your own
when?
identity?
Um, Probably in the past like couple years. I've had so many people in my head to be like, you should do forget the rap. They're like, stop rapping, just sing. And I'm like, that's how I got into doing music, was writing raps. Like that would be so unauthentic if I stopped rapping, because I didn't know how to write singing songs at first. I only knew how to write raps. That's how I got into doing music. So just having all the different people in my head, it's made it really hard. But finally I kind of like just tuned everybody out. And then these past couple of years, I was like, I'm just gonna do with what makes me happy. And whenever I'm feeling in the mood to make a love song, I'm gonna write a love song. If I'm feeling in the mood to make a country song, I'm gonna make a country song. So I've just really just been going with like 100% what I feel, and I've really like stopped listening to so many people. I think that that's what helped me just like figure out the type of artist I am, is just being 100% authentic to me and not following anybody else's influence.
I think that's the best thing that you can do, because especially in the entertainment business, people try and put you in a box. They try and make you one thing. They just say, okay, you're on this TV show. Cool. That's how we think about you. You do this kind of music. But ultimately, we're all multifaceted. We want to
Yes.
do all these different types of things. So what has it meant to you to, build out on multiple platforms, to do the music, to do the TV show? Why is that an important thing for you to be in all these different spaces?
Well, I love doing all of it. That's why it's important to me. I mean, since I was little, I would watch TV and I'm like, I want to do that, And I've always been in music. I never want to have to exclude one or the other. I love doing TV, and I would love to get into more acting and film, and music is my passion since I mean, I think I was singing since I could talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's really important to me to always stay true to the TV side of stuff, but also stay true to who I am as an artist, and keep the balance, because I would never, like, say if tomorrow, all of a sudden it was like, say, I became number one on the charts tomorrow and everything blew up with the music, I still would do Ridiculousness and I would still be there because like I love it, and it's my family, you know what I mean? So it's very important to me to balance it all, and I like to do it all. I love film and TV. I want to get into directing. I used to do voiceovers for cartoons. So entertaining in general is kind of just like, it's what I'm good at.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
listen.
even in my group of friends, like if you like, it's like when we're not, it's not even, I'm not supposed to be working, like I'm still somehow entertaining. You know what I mean?
Well, clearly it's worked out for you well on Ridiculousness. Why don't you paint the picture for the audience? Where were you at in your life when the show was first starting up, and what did you expect the show to be at that point?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy because we were on Fantasy Factory. We were already doing the other show, Fantasy Factory, when Rob was like, "Hey, I got this new show," and like kind of told me and Sterling about it. And I didn't think that Ridiculousness was gonna be bigger than Fantasy Factory and Rob and Big. I grew up watching Rob and Big. Like in high school, I was a fan of Rob, and it's kind of surreal. Like I guess you could say I really did like live like out my dreams. You know what I mean? Like I like went from being a super fan of Rob and Big to somehow meeting him, and he asked me to be on a show. And when he made Ridiculousness, I thought like, oh, this is going to be just like kind of like another, like a cool little side thing. But I did not see it going on to become bigger than the other shows. And I'm like, it's just kind of surreal to be here now. Like people compare us to America's Funniest Home Videos. We've been on kind of the same amount of, like, I think we've been almost on as long as it or something, which is crazy because America's Funniest Home Videos has been on since I was a kid. But we've filmed so much in such a smaller amount of time that we're almost catching up to them. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was like on Fantasy Factory when we started, but I also was still broke. I was still a regular person. I actually had a part-time job working at a clothing store at the time still.
Wow.
So when Ridiculousness came around, it was like really like it went from just like kind of being on TV sometimes and making a little bit of an extra little bit of money to like, oh, this is my full-time thing now. This is like my career. So yeah, it was a big change really fast for me.
How far into Ridiculousness before you gave up the job doing retail?
Doing what?
How long were you holding on to that job in the clothing store before you let that one go and just had Ridiculousness as your whole world?
Oh, it's funny. I actually, I stayed working there for a while. It's like I love making money and I needed the extra money. So it got to the point where like a lot of people were coming in the store and asking me for pictures. And like I'd be in the middle of folding a t-shirt and they're like, "Can I get a picture with you?" And I'm like, and I look at my boss, I'm like, "Can I take a picture with them?" And he's like, he finally pulled me aside and he was like, "Chanel," he's like, I'm so proud of you. Like, you're doing great. And he's like, but he's like, you're getting to a point now where I don't think you should be like working in a store. I think that you're at a level now where like, you got to do some other things because so many people are recognizing you and like bugging you here, And that's kind of when I realized like, okay, I need to 100% make money off this entertainment career now because I can't be working in a clothing store and doing like autograph signings at the same time,
That's really funny. So when you think about the show, obviously like it's free flowing, you're reacting to the videos you're seeing, but there's also a challenge in that and being original and being funny. So why don't you just, give us a little peek behind the curtain here, and what are some of the biggest struggles that you have when you're like, I want to make this funny, but I also want to make this original and I want to entertain people?
It's very, I always say like I'm so much more comfortable performing music than being on stage at Ridiculousness, because when you perform music, it's rehearsed. You know what you're doing. When we go on Ridiculousness, it is so like freestyle, spur of the moment. What you see on TV, like that's it. Like we literally film in like almost the real time of the show. Like we probably film like just an extra amount to like where they can barely edit it out for commercials, but like that, it's so raw and authentic to what you see on TV. And I think that, to be honest, this year it's gotten a little easier for me because we don't have an audience now. The pressure of the audience before was like, it's not just making a funny moment that they can, with editing, make even funnier on TV. Like this audience is here right in front of you. And if they don't laugh, you're like, oh no, that wasn't funny, but for the most part, they obviously laugh at like pretty much everything we say. But there is every now and then where they like don't laugh and you're like, oh, like I didn't make them laugh. And so it's a little nerve-wracking, and I get what comedians go through now, even though I'm not like a straight up comedian, yeah, it's interesting. I just like really like go up there and like I try to think of funny stuff, but also like I just kind of say what comes to my mind, because the more you say, the more it might just naturally be funny. It's a really interesting job. Let's just put it that way. Like I don't know how else to explain it other than that.
I would say so. Listen, you've performed music for thousands and thousands of people, right? But you have what, like a couple hundred people that you're working on, and suddenly that becomes a more nerve-wracking thing because you can actually see these people as you're trying to do these jokes.
Exactly. That's what it is. Because like I always say, when you're on stage, you're farther from people. Like you can't like see their expression, but like when we're on Ridiculousness, we can see every face, every expression, every person who's not laughing. So it's a little bit more nerve-wracking, and we're just going with the flow, hoping that they like what we say.
I think one of the craziest things about the show too is that, people like in their 20s and 30s love the show. And then, my father-in-law like is obsessed with the show, and he's in his 50s, and it hits for everybody.
Yes. When I look at my little, like, like the little, like your statistics on Instagram, and I have like this little, my little part for like it's like over 50 people is bigger than my fan base under 17.
Wow. That tells you everything you need to know.
Yes, like older people love Ridiculousness. Like I get so many like people like an old guy like who I would never think knows who I am. And he's like, "Hey, are you West Coast?" And I'm like, this little old guy watches Ridiculousness. And so yeah, we definitely have a very broad fan base.
It's really cool to see. And so Ridiculousness has obviously allowed you to meet a lot of people over the years. Music has brought you in front of a lot of different people. Lil Wayne's somebody that you've crossed paths with and worked with. What do you remember about first linking up with him, and what does it mean to have a working relationship with him?
Honestly, Wayne is the coolest person in the world. He's one of the most talented people in the world. He's like a musical genius. So just to have Wayne like even like me or be cool with me at any point in my life has been such a honor to me. My dog's named Wheezy. Like I got my dog before I met Lil Wayne. So if that says how much of a fan I was, you know what I'm saying? And he's such a dope person, and it's just great to know that I've been in his presence. I've worked with him in the studio and got to see how he works and what he does, and not just with Wayne, with other people too. Like it's really cool to just be amongst like your idols, and then finally be like to a point where you're like, oh, like your idols are acknowledging you as an artist. So that's probably like the coolest thing about just knowing him in general, is that I went from being somebody who was a super fan and named my dog after him to have him, be like a buddy,
That's really awesome. Well, Chanel, it's been awesome hanging out with you. Really pumped for everything you got going on. Best luck, and we'll talk to you down the road, right?
Yes, have a happy holidays, and tell your wife again I love that stocking.
I definitely
We have the same stocking taste.